Alright, today I'm going to show you how we build the SuperNaturals here at FlippinOut Slingshots. So, big fan of natural forks here, and a lot of times, if you look, you can find a slingshot growing in a tree that you don't have to do another thing to. But a lot of times when you harvest forks that are perfect on the tree, depending on the time of year, the bark can come off. If you harvest it in the spring or summer when the sap's rising, a lot of times the bark will let go. And I really like the look of the bark on the slingshot. So we've been stabilizing our slingshots with, we're actually using a product called cactus juice. It's a stabilizing resin. So we're going to put these slingshots here into this pot. Then we're going to pull a vacuum on it, pull about 25 inches of mercury. And it's going to infuse this resin here into the wood fibers. So it's going to replace all the air that's in the wood fibers with the resin. Then we'll put the resin into the oven, and it's heat activated. So it'll effectively stabilize all the wood fibers. And it's going to also bond the bark right to the fork. And you'll see the effect as we finish out. So just want to show you, it also adds a little bit of mass to it. So we're going to start out and we're just going to weigh these forks. So let's check it out here. So I got a dandy here. This is from a Laurel. So that one is 40.6 grams. Put that one in the pot. This is a piece of red oak at 51 grams. Got dogwood here. Dogwood is 48 grams. Dogwood is really dense. We're going to pull a vacuum in it a long time. Another piece of, let's see there. I'm not real sure on that one. I think that's hornbeam. And it is 40 grams. Another perfect dogwood. I mean, that's a fine specimen of a slingshot. But this is a dogwood here at 52 grams and change. Another dogwood that's been started at 62 grams. One more dogwood here at 55 grams, almost 56. Then a tiny little oak fork, little BB shooter. That'll be a fun one at 22 grams. So what we're going to do here is we've got them all in our pot. Get them organized. Alright, now it's time for the cactus juice to go in. So let's cover these puppies up. And it's important that they're completely covered. So we may have to take a few of those out. But what we'll do here is use a cutout. This is just a chunk of 1/4 inch aluminum plate that we cut a slingshot out of. And we're almost covered there. We're going to add a little bit more juice, then put a vacuum on it. Alright, we've got them completely submerged. Got a plate on top so that all the forks are completely submerged in the liquid. Now it's time to cap it off and pull a vacuum on it. Alright. Here we go. So if my math is correct, I believe close to 29 inches of mercury is a perfect vacuum, and that's at sea level. And given that we're in the mountains here, we're at about 2,300 feet where we're located. At 27 inches of mercury, we're pulling pretty close to a complete vacuum. We can see that the bubbliness receded some. We've gotten out a lot of the air. We're just going to keep letting it cranking for a little while. Alright, so we've done it for about 45 minutes here, had it in the vacuum. We've got just a very few bubbles coming up now, so it's time to shut it down. Alright, so we're just going to slowly bleed off the pressure here. Alright, and now we'll pull them out and rinse them off, or not rinse them off, just let them drain, and then into the oven. Okay, so now we've got them in the toaster oven. We've got it set about 200 degrees. Let's check the temperature here. Okay, we're down to 177. Let's close it up. So we're going to hold this here for about 200 degrees, about an hour, hour and a half. and it's the heat that activates the resin. So it's a two-part resin, and it's heat activated. So 2 hours in the oven here. When they come out, they're going to be rock solid and ready for polishing. So we're almost there for the Supernatural. Alright, it's been about 2 hours that these guys have been cooking, so the forks are finished now. So let's pull these guys out and see how much they weigh. So that one's picked up a few grams. I believe that one was around 40. Nice dense dogwood. That one picked up about 7 grams. So about a 1/4 ounce heavier. Alright, so there's the rest of them. It does add a little bit of mass, and we'll see next what we can do with these and make them Supernaturals, the all-weather, all-purpose, never-fail natural. Alright, so this is what the Supernaturals look like when they're all finished and polished up. So we've got some different examples here that are polished and finished to different degrees. So starting here, this one has been stabilized, so the bark will never come off. This one is bonded to the wood, and it was just lightly sanded. So basically it's got a very natural fork, but it's infused. Every wood fiber is infused with acrylic resin that's been hardened. So absolutely weatherproof. It's not going to chip. Makes a natural even tougher. And all the Supernaturals will come fitted with Linitex bands. Here's one that was just a little bit smaller. I believe this was from a white oak. And one thing we did here is we used an aluminum-based dye, and you can see the actual blue-green dye that we used in the resin itself. So everything has a greenish cast to it. And this one was brought up to a little bit higher polish. Whereas this one right here simply just knocked the bark off. There's no shaping done on this. This is the natural shape. But the bark was knocked off and lightly sanded before it went into the stabilizing process. So it does have the resin through it. It's got a different tone about it now. The wood actually sounds different. A little bit more resonant. Here's one that's a real dandy. Mesquite is a tough wood to do, but this is mesquite from Arizona. And normally if you didn't stabilize it, the bark may have a tendency to come off. This is never going to come off. And one beautiful thing about mesquite is once you go down below the layers of the bark, it develops some really interesting grain patterns. And so you can see a lot of change as you move down through the grain. And this one here, we did a little bit of shaping too. So another beautiful slingshot. Here this was a really oversized fork. We'll have some photos of the fork that it started with. This was an oversized, I believe this was Chilean mesquite, and it was grown in Arizona as well as an ornamental, but just made a chalice shape out of it. But you can see here if we left remnants of the bark. And normally if this hadn't been stabilized, that bark would eventually chip off. So you get that nice accent of the bark with lots of texture and color to it without having to worry about it falling away later. Just another simple oak fork, again brought up to a nice high polish, but rock solid. And then finally, this was another piece of mesquite. We did a lot of mesquite in this last batch, and we tried the green dye again. So we highlighted the open grain structure of mesquite, and everywhere there was open grain structure, the dye impregnated, where everywhere else that it was much tighter, we didn't get the dye. So we got a really nice modeling effect, and you can see it here as you look at the end grain, how the actual dye moved through it through capillary action. Got a great little pickle fork that came out of this one. And then finally just another highly shaped oak. So this one was carved, knife carved, down to its shape before it went into the resin bath. So again, this is just a simple natural that's been carved down. This one in particular is made to fit the right hand, but it's had some dye added to it. This one was more green and less blue, and it made the grain kind of pop. This was spalted a little bit, so it did stabilize all those soft spots. You can see the spalting in the fork tips here. But this is the Supernatural. So yeah, it's a natural slingshot, but they're made to be tough as nails. They're not going to move, so carry them in any weather, any environment. Really low maintenance. You don't really have to worry about oiling these guys, but you can add oil to it, and a few of these have had a coat of tung oil just to help. This one here had a coat of tung oil put on it before it was polished, just to help bring out the color. So Supernaturals, another cool innovation here at FlippinOut Slingshots. Thanks for taking a look.